now I've seen a shift where there's more vulnerability shown in poetry. And I think I wanted to ask you a question about the role you think poetry, or like the form of poetry, plays in the conversation we're having at large about masculinity.
Yeah.
Because I think it's more than just about the idea of masculinity, but I think that the role of vulnerability in our culture, we are becoming less and less vulnerable with each other because we start to feel like there is a wall that we have to pull up. You know, I feel like these like phones allow us to be ourselves, but not really, an extracted version of ourselves, which is okay, but it kind of also makes it difficult to share yourself and be vulnerable. So yeah, like, can you speak a little bit more about that idea of like, what role do you think vulnerability plays in this kind of climate that we have currently, and also a little bit more about how it affects guys, you think?
I mean, I think masculinity and vulnerability is like a massive topic, so I'm going to try and just speak about it from my point of view. I think for me, I've had to recognize in myself that I'm actually quite a sensitive, emotional person. In some ways, that's been really self-destructive. Like, I'd be like angry and I didn't know why, but like a lot of the anger would be like internalized. So I'd be angry at myself. A lot of negative talk, frustration, feeling like I'm going nowhere with my life. So then it turns into like anger, then turns into like a sadness, feeling demotivated. And I think it's especially bad for guys because obviously there's a very traditional sort of sense of how a man should be. Like, men should be strong, they should be the providers. For me, it got to a point where it was so bad, I had to literally like find a counselor and be like, you know, start talking and unpacking things. And I think I've been, you know, it's been a few years and I'm still nowhere near where I want to be in terms of like managing emotions. But at least I've recognized, for me, I need to do that work on myself every single day. Because the moment I leave my emotions unchecked, it manifests and, you know, it creeps up on you. It's like, I don't know what to compare it to. It's like, you know, like cleaning your room, or like doing something every day to make sure it doesn't get too bad, because before you know it, your room's a mess. Like and you've let it go, and it's like things like there's bowls of cereal like from days ago that you've just forgot about. If you do a little bit every day, overall you'll be better, but it is work. And I think poetry for me has been about unpacking emotions and having a dialogue with yourself. I think a lot of guys can find it, especially younger guys, can find it easier to just not take the steps to know themselves, get to know yourself. And in a way, I don't blame it, because things get real complicated. Like when you start exploring yourself and asking yourself, who am I?
Yes.
Suddenly life gets really complicated.
Yeah, of course.
But if as a guy, you're like, you know what, this is who I am, and I'm not going to dig beneath the surface on this, life is easier in a way, because then it becomes more linear. But I think in the long run, you're doing yourself a disservice, because every single one of us is very rich in character, and we're not all the same. We're not this one-dimensional man who's just about like getting a good job, having a family, providing for a family. We're much more than this. But the first step to kind of realizing that is asking yourself difficult questions. Why do I think in this particular way? What's my relationship like with my dad, with my friends, with my community? What do I actually want to get out of life? You know, what actually matters to me? Why am I upset by certain things? Why am I frustrated with certain things? These are really difficult questions, and there's no real answer, and your answer will change year to year. Poetry is just one way of doing that. But I know, you know, it doesn't have to be poetry. Music, sports is another way, because I think with sports, you're kind of telling yourself to push past your limits. And then when you can't reach those limits, you kind of tell yourself, okay, what's going on? It's just that level of introspection. And I think it can be really easy not to be introspective sometimes, because we don't ask that of men. We just ask them to be a particular way. And, you know, like you were saying, like sometimes your friends can get funny with you, say, oh, why are you acting so, you know, why are you acting like this? You know, like it's not that deep. It's not that deep. But like, I think it's a long journey to get to know yourself. And I think it's a lifelong endeavor and it's worthwhile. Whatever way works for you. I'm not saying poetry. You don't have to be a poet, but ask yourself some of the bigger questions and try to get to know yourself properly. Because I think life is rich. It's really rich when you give yourself space and time to explore why you like the things you like or why you care about the things you care about. Yeah.
That's beautifully said, and I completely agree with everything you've said. I think, yeah, introspection, I think you mentioned, I think that's the key word. We have to be more introspective. There's so much of the world we don't understand. I think you have to always come out with humility, understand that you don't know anything.
Yeah.
Like literally, you know nothing about yourself, about why you are the way you are, about your family, about the wider world around you, about other people's perspectives and other people's experiences. So yeah, we have to be way more open to that. And I think introspection is very important. Poetry has allowed me to be introspective on a level where I see how expansive my world is, and I go, oh, okay, but this is just my perspective. What about other people? And I think if more guys go into that habit of being introspective and understanding the humility that comes with, of like, okay, if my world is this expansive and, you know, there's so many parts of myself that I'm yet to meet, what about other people? And, you know, you can be at least empathetic to that.
Yeah.
People's struggles, people's experiences, and then we can start building something. Final question I have actually is, what kind of poet, circling back to the right at the beginning, we were talking about your journey of being a poet. What kind of poet do you hope to be? And follow-up question to that is that, I know it's a big question. Follow-up question to that is, when people read your work, what do you hope they take away from it? What do you hope they feel?
So next year, one of my big goals is to put out a body of work. So whether that's a book, whether that's a pamphlet, just a small collection of poems, I want to put that out there. And for that, the overarching theme that I want to tackle is relationships. So what do I mean by that? I mean your relationship to yourself, you know, kind of coming back to like digging deeper, know thyself, you know, that's one of my favorite phrases. So your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your family, you know, as you saw in my chosen path was eggs. That's like a big theme. Your relationship with your friends, so like your social relationships, because I think the past couple of years, maybe it's because I'm getting older and like people are at different stages. You know, some of my friends are getting married, some of them starting families, buying houses, in big jobs. Some of them have lost jobs. You're at that phase of your life where like you need to kind of think about your friendships and like what does that mean to you? You know, how do you relate to childhood friends who you're no longer close with? Like, but you're still friends, but like you're on different paths of life. So that's another thing. And then the last bit was your relationship with your community. So East London, what it means to me, what it means to be part of like the Bangladeshi immigrant community, the diaspora, your culture, that kind of thing. So yeah, God willing, I get that body of work out, and I want the reader to read that and think, okay, he's got a unique voice. I think that's really important to me, finding a voice that's unique, saying something that may not have been said in such a way, and helps them think about their own relationships as well in all of those different ways.
Absolutely.